with location, I think there's a few aspects of that to think about. The first is literally where the college is located in terms of where you come from. So a lot of students are really uncomfortable going away from home to a place that's really different. And I think you really need to understand yourself in that way. If you're comfortable kind of going off to a place where you don't know anyone and aren't really familiar with the location, because your success in college is very dependent on if you're happy where you are. And if you're not happy, then you're probably going to struggle. So thinking about location in terms of home, thinking about location in terms of weather was my most important thing, just because I'm not a fan of the cold and the snow. So I was afraid that I would be so miserable that I wouldn't care about going to class. So that was important for me, but that's kind of a trifling thing in retrospect. I think that something that's really important, though, is where your college, what type of community your college is situated in. So thinking about whether or not it's an urban school and your school is literally in a city. So you're living and going to class in a city. So that would be a school like NYU, Columbia, in the heart of New York City, or UPenn in Philadelphia. So whether it's an urban school, whether it's a college town, and it's kind of isolated, and the reason why the city exists is because the college is there. That's a very different feel in that type of community. Or you have a school that's kind of isolated while still being kind of in a more urban metropolitan area like Stanford, where we have a large campus. We're part of more smaller community areas, but we're really close to San Francisco. So kind of thinking about how urban your school is, I think, is important. Thinking about if you feel safe in that environment, but also what type of environment you want with that. The other things to think about with colleges and choosing is the academic environment and different characteristics of it. So how competitive it is and what type of competitiveness it has. So for me, I was looking for a competitive campus where I could be competitive with myself, but it wasn't necessarily a cutthroat environment where students were trying to get the best grade in the class. And so that's really something I looked at when I was looking at colleges, was how students felt and interacted with each other in the academic setting. So contacting students and kind of getting their experience with that is really important. Another key thing to think about with location, I guess, sort of location, is housing, because a lot of colleges will either guarantee you housing for all 4 years and some won't guarantee you housing. So kind of checking that out as well. I think also another thing that's really important to check out is kind of diversity, whether or not like a campus has I think most Ivy League schools are very diverse and very tolerant, and I think that's something that the Ivy Leagues do really well. Kind of checking out the diversity and how you would fit in on the campus, I think is good. I'm trying to think. Financial status is really important in deciding a school too, because being able to afford college is probably one of the greatest deciding factors. So I think checking out schools that offer really good need-based aid. Harvard and Stanford do a great job of offering really great scholarships to people whose parents make below a certain amount. So checking out those financial programs and making sure you have your forms in on time so that you can be considered for them is really important. And even if you don't think you're going to get aid from a school, always apply for it, because you should never assume that you won't. And the other thing to think about too is kind of checking out, check out schools that you think you can get money from that you would want to go to. But I would say if you have the ability to choose going to a school that you're going to have to pay a little bit more for versus going to a school that gave you a bit more scholarship, and you honestly believe you'd be happier at the school that costs a little bit more, I think in the long run that's worth it. But it's definitely something that you need to sit down with your parents and discuss, because money is a real issue when it comes to college.